Hi, thanks for joining us for the Early Childhood Education Business Self-Assessment Tool, an opportunity for you to learn how to assess your business management practices to support an effective and sustainable early childhood education center. My name is Kim Vada of Kim Vada Consulting, and I'll be walking you through the tool today. It's brought to you on behalf of the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund, a nonprofit out of Concord, New Hampshire, that collaborates with a wide range of donors and investors and with business, nonprofit, and government partners to provide financing and support that people with low and moderate incomes need to have affordable housing, quality jobs, childcare, and early education for their children, and to become financially independent. Julie McConnell is the Director of Childcare and Community Facility Lending, and she oversees the Business of Childcare Initiative, which is the program bringing you the ECE Business Self-Assessment Tool. The Business of Childcare Initiative was developed several years ago to help early learning centers in New Hampshire focus on the business management side of their centers. We do that by bringing technical assistance, which is basically consulting support on the finance side and administration side of early learning, as well as workshops and tools like the self-assessment tool and other resources. You can check us out on the Community Loan Fund website. More information about that at the end of the webinar. Webinar objectives today are to introduce the ECE Business Self-Assessment Tool, introduce the Business of Childcare, a business management resource guide for New Hampshire childcare providers, a supplement to the ECE Business Self-Assessment Tool, provide an opportunity for feedback, and we welcome your feedback. The tool and the resource guide are evolving documents. We are constantly making changes to them based on what we hear from directors who use the tool and the resource guide. You'll be given contact information for both myself and Julie McConnell at the end of the webinar so that you can tell us what you think. We also encourage you to complete and evaluate the ECE Business Self-Assessment Tool, and we'll introduce technical assistance and mini-grant opportunities. Why is self-assessment important? We think it is. We think it's important because you're busy, and too busy most likely, to thoughtfully reflect on your business management practices. You're caught up in the day-to-day management of your center, managing staff, ensuring your program is of good quality and effective, dealing with families, parents, and all the administration that goes with running an early learning center. It's hard for you to step back and take the time to really think about your business management practices and whether they're serving your needs. So self-assessment provides an organized and efficient method for you to identify the strengths and opportunities for your center and areas of management that are ineffective or hindering your success. Basically, it's giving you a tool, a structured tool, that allows you to sort of take a finite amount of time, just a short period of time, to sit down and really ask yourself hard questions about what you're doing in the areas of finance, human resources, planning, and really think about whether or not the practices that you're implementing are serving your needs. It's really, bottom line, a way for you to strengthen your center. The ECE Business Self-Assessment Tool begins with a pre-assessment questionnaire. Basically, what we're trying to do is get a sense of your understanding of self-assessment, what it is and how it might help your business, and what good business management practices are. So we ask that you take a few moments before you dig into the tool to answer these 3 questions, and then you'll see those questions again at the end of the assessment tool. Just a word about the Program Administration Scale, which is a publication that was developed and available through the McCormick Center for Early Childhood Leadership. We used this tool, the Business of Childcare Initiative, several years ago when we first began work under the initiative and started working with early learning centers. We did that up in Coos County in New Hampshire. The Program Administration Scale is an assessment tool that's been around for over a decade now. It's been widely studied and researched for its efficacy, and it's basically a deeper dive into assessment. You can do the PAS as a self-assessment, or you can hire a consultant or a certified PAS administrator to administer the tool for you. If you decide that you really like self-assessment after going through the ECE Business Self-Assessment Tool, we encourage you to look for the PAS and give it give it a once over and see if it's something that you'd like to do. It's much more comprehensive. It covers more areas of administration, and it takes more time, but it's well worth the investment. Under the ECE Business Self-Assessment Tool, we focus on 5 general categories of business management. The first is financial management, and we're going to be looking at budgeting, cash flow forecasting, use of technology, and internal controls. Use of technology is basically whether or not you're using an accounting system, internal controls, or what kind of practices you have in place to minimize risk in your center, financial risk, and to ensure consistency in your business management practices. The iron triangle is another second category, and this is really the trinity of practices that we believe support financial sustainability in an early learning center. This trinity of practices as a theory was first put forward by Louise Stoney in her article, an article that introduced the concept of the iron triangle. And the 3 pinnacles of that are enrollment management, collections, and fee setting. And so basically, do you have good management of your enrollment practices? Do you have a good understanding of your enrollment in terms of what you expect to come down the line, changes in enrollment, good tracking of enrollment in place? What are the components of your enrollment management system? And are you using them effectively? Collections, do you have good collection practices in place? Are you implementing them consistently? And then fee setting. Are you determining your tuition rates? Are you setting your fees based on good information? Are you looking at that regularly, and are you managing that effectively? So enrollment management, collections, and fee setting. Human resources, that covers the area of hiring, orientation, professional development, and performance evaluation, really looking at the cornerstones or the foundation of a good human resources program to make sure that you're setting yourself up right. And from the beginning, when you hire someone on your staff, and then that you're hopefully being effective in the management of staff to support, strong retention and good performance from your employees. Fourth is planning and evaluation. How are you setting priorities for your center? Are you assuring that your resources are properly aligned to help you meet your priorities, and that they're focused on strengthening your center and making it successful? And then are you monitoring your goals as time goes by to make sure that you're actually working to achieve them, and making adjustments as needed as the situation for your center changes, perhaps in terms of market changes, staffing changes, or just internal goals. Fifth, we have governance and nonprofit organizations. This is the 5th category of business management, and this one is, as it states, focused on nonprofit. So if you're a proprietary center or a for-profit center, you could basically stop at number 4, and you'll have a cue for that within the self-assessment tool. But when we look at governance and nonprofit organizations, what we're talking about is the establishment of policies and practices that support good board governance. And are you monitoring, is the board monitoring itself to ensure that it's adhering to its established policies and practices and doing what it needs to do to support effective management of the nonprofit? So these are the 5 general categories of the ECE Business Self-Assessment Tool. Financial management, the iron triangle, human resources, planning and evaluation, and governance and nonprofit organizations. Okay, so we've got 5 categories, and each category is made up of 1 or more subcategories. For example, financial management includes general financial management, budget planning, cash flow management, and accounting practices. And then each subcategory includes 1 to 5 rows composed of a series of statements that describe different levels of competence in that particular area. You'll see an example on the right here. We're looking at cash flow management, and cash flow management is really talking about whether or not you're forecasting, you have systems in place to forecast your cash inflows and outflows, to manage shortfalls and surpluses. And these criteria, these 3 rows, are the criteria by which you're going to be scoring yourselves. It goes 1 through 4. You really only see 1 through 3 here. We'll look at a complete example on another slide. But this is a subcategory under the general category of financial management. And these rows, there's 3 of them here, provide the statements that are going to describe the different levels of competence under the area of cash flow management. This is the scoring. You'll circle 1, 2, 3, or 4 when you're going through this practice of through the process of assessing yourself under cash flow management, and you're going to pick a score that most accurately reflects your current practice at the center. So what are you doing at that moment of self-assessment? Your scores are totaled at the end of each subcategory, so down here, and that reflects the center's overall performance in that area. So you'll rate yourself, assume you got 3s across the board, 3, 3, and 3, and then you would give yourself a 9, and the maximum cash flow management score is 12. So here's a more complete picture. This is general financial management, and this is under the category of financial management. And there's 2 rows. So we have 2 rows, 2 sets of criteria that we're assessing. The first one is about finance-related training and accountancy qualifications. And the second one is about software and technology and how you're using it in your center. So the first one we're looking at the financial literacy related training and accountancy qualifications. You would start at number 1. So you'd be asking yourself this question, or sort of responding to this statement. And it's basically, the first statement is, no staff, including the director, has received finance-relating training and or possesses accountancy qualifications. And you'd either say that's true or that's not true. So if no staff have received it, then you would say, you'd circle 1 and you could stop there. It's nice to look ahead to 2, 3, and 4 to see what we're looking for and what supports a high score. But you would basically, for assessment purposes, say, well, I'm at a 1 because no one on my staff has that type of training. If you do say, well, yes, we've got some training, you'd move on to number 2, and then that says at least 1 staff person involved in the management of the center's finances has received finance-related training and or possesses accountancy qualifications. And that's excellent. So you've got someone on staff who's got some finance-related training to help you, successfully manage your finances for your center. That could be you. It could be a board member, perhaps as a board member who's actively involved in the management of the center's finances, and that would obviously be for a nonprofit. And if you say yes to 2, then you should look on to number 3 as well. So now you're saying, yes, I've got someone who's got finance training, plus the business has written finance or accounting procedures which cover financial rules, routines, and processes. So that means you've written down your financial processes. What do you do? How do you manage cash when it's given to you by a parent or someone else paying for tuition? How do you pay bills? How do you manage your bank accounts? How do you manage deposits? What do you have rules about, limits on check writing? Do you require 1 or 2 signatures? Is there a maximum amount? There's lots of areas of finance and accounting that are typically covered by rules and processes. And it's important to write these down and to document them. It supports consistency in your business management practices and your finance, on the finance side of things. It helps with turnover in staff when there's turnover in that key financial position. For nonprofits, it's very important to have these things written down because it ensures that there's consistent practices in place when there's changes in leadership, because board leadership often changes. So there's several reasons why it's important to do this. And so if you can say yes to 2 and to 3, you would circle here. If you can say yes to both of those, you'd be looking at number 4. And then you're saying that you do have finance-related training. You have staff who have finance-related training. You have written finance and accounting procedures, and that they've been reviewed by all staff and board members that are actively involved in the financial management of the center, and they are updated regularly to reflect actual practices. And so that's really what number 4 is about, is that not only do you have these, but they've been looked at by staff and board members who should have looked at them. That's basically the folks who are involved in managing the finances, and that you update them regularly to reflect what you're actually doing as practice. Many organizations developed financial policies and procedures, and then they kind of sit on the shelf. So the important piece here is that they're not getting dusty, but you're actually looking at them, and that looking at them provides you the opportunity to really question the efficiency and the effectiveness of what you're doing. It's actually an opportunity for assessment, to really step back and take a look at your practices routinely. And so we encourage that. And that would be a number 4. So once you've gone through scoring, and you can see the person who did this stop themselves at number 2 because they have some finance related, some staff who've had finance related training, but they obviously don't have any written policies or procedures in place. And so they stopped at 2, as they should. So the second one, we won't go through all 4 of them, but basically this is about accounting software and what you're using, how you're recording your financial activities. Are you doing it manually, which would put you down here if you're only using a check register? Maybe you have a more sophisticated system of manual record keeping, a deposit ledger, a payable ledger, that type of thing that you fill out manually, but you record in pretty regularly and consistently. That would put you at number 2. Number 3 is you're actually using accounting software that has, registers like payables, receivable registers, a payroll register. And then number 4 elevates you a little bit more, that you're actually using accounting software, you're routinely updating it, you're reconciling your ledgers, the account ledgers routinely, and you're also backing up your accounting package, your accounting software, to ensure that your financial records are well protected. So that would give you a number 4. So this person stopped at number 3. They obviously have an accounting program that they're using, which includes, specific registers, which is great, but maybe they're not updating it routinely, or they're not backing it up and keeping it off-site. If you're missing one of these things, then you go with 3 until you can build yourself up to a 4. And so the total score for this individual, or the center, is 5 out of a maximum of 8. And it's as simple as that. So the criteria that support high performance in the subcategory, in our subcategory here, the general financial management, which we just went through, is usually described in a brief paragraph following the subcategory title. I didn't want to show that all on one slide because it would be too tight. So basically, between the title of general financial management here and the table, you'll see this description. And I'm pointing this out because I just want you to see what the high score, indicates. So this is the kind of criteria that you're looking for when you're thinking about, okay, well, what do I really want to be looking for under general financial management? Hopefully you've got practices in place that indicate that your center makes an investment in ensuring leadership and financial staff have skills and training, and that you have policies in place that ensure consistency and compliance in financial practices. And those are really the key things that we're looking for to support a high score under general financial management. And so you'll sort of find that kind of description under each subcategory to help you get a sense of what that subcategory is really about. So just to recap, we've got our 5 financial categories: financial management, the iron triangle, human resources, planning and evaluation, governance and nonprofit organizations. Then we've got our subcategories, and these are the subcategories for iron triangle. You'll note the blue font. And those are enrollment management, collections, and per child cost, or cost per child. And then we've got the scoring criteria. And for enrollment management, there's 2 rows of criteria, and it's 1 through 4, and you only see the 1, 2, and part of 3 here. And then you've got the enrollment management score total and the maximum that can be achieved of 8. Okay, so that just gives you an overall picture of the tool and how it works. So once you've gone through all of the categories, all the main categories, those 5, and the subcategories within them, you'll come to the ECE Business Self-Assessment Scoring Summary. And here you can see each category: the financial management, iron triangle, human resources, planning and evaluation, and governance, if applicable, if you're that nonprofit, and then the subcategories. And within parentheses is the max score for each of those subcategories. And then here's your score. This is the score that you'll put in. This is some make-believe center score, but you're going to put your score here. in this area, this column, and then you're going to multiply it times the weight. And so what we did when we developed this tool is we wanted to put more emphasis on the financial management criteria under the tool. So we gave them the score some weight. So basically, you're multiplying a financial score times 2 to get a total score. So here, the center got a 6 out of 8. They're multiplying that by 2, so their total score is 12. And then once you get beyond the financial management subcategories, you'll see that we're now multiplying by 1. That doesn't mean that these aren't relevant. Of course, strong human resources is relevant, as well as planning and good governance practices as well. We just wanted to put some emphasis when we're talking about financial sustainability, and that's really what this tool, we had that in mind when we developed this tool, is what are the practices that support a sustainable center. We wanted to put some emphasis on the financial criteria in scoring. So once you've done all of that, you're going to sum all of your totals, and that gives this person, this center, 108, and then you divide it by the sum of the weights, which has been done for you. The sum of the weights in this column is 21, and so the average weighted item score is 5.14 for the center. If you look over to the left, you'll see the grading scale for a proprietary or for-profit center. The maximum total score would be 132. For a maximum weighted average score of 6.28. For a nonprofit, the maximum total score is 160, and that's because they have this governance criteria here. And the maximum weighted average score is 7.62. Now we see some scoring here in the governance section, so we know this is a nonprofit. Their sum was 108. Their weighted score is 5.14, so they have a 5.14 out of a maximum of 7.62. For me, what is most telling about this scoring summary sheet, is the sort of individual rows. What I'm more interested in, rather than my total score, though I think it's nice to see that, is, how did I do under each subcategory? If I saw that I had a low score, 2 out of 4 for cost per child, I'm going to be wondering why. What's that missing 2? What piece of cost per child criteria that supports a high score am I missing? Likewise, strategic planning, I've got a 1, so what's missing? Maybe there's no strategic plan in place. Whatever that is, I want to dig into that. So it's really the individual scores that, to me, are most telling, what I would sort of be looking at when I was looking at this scoring summary. Though again, it certainly would be nice to come back and do this self-assessment again and see that shift in score. So once you've completed the self-assessment tool, we're hoping that you will evaluate it. As I said earlier, this is a work in progress. The tool has evolved over time. We've been using it for several years now, and it evolves because we hear from you. We hear from directors who've used the tool and who give us feedback on its efficacy and how it's worked for them. So these are sort of some of the questions. These are the questions we'll be asking you. I won't read them all to you, but basically we're looking to know if the tools meted its stated objective to help you assess strengths and weaknesses in your practices. How much time did it take you? Was the meaning of any words or phrases unclear? Are we missing any subcategories or categories, that really you believe reflect strong business management practices that we just didn't touch on in the tool? We did purposely leave some things out just because we wanted to provide you a tool that didn't feel like it was going to take too much time or be too much of an investment, but we thought really captured some of the key criteria that you should be looking at when assessing your business management practices. But it's still good to hear. If we hear a lot that there's one particular category is missing, then we can reevaluate. We want to know if these assessment results were easy to understand and apply, and if you would recommend the tool, and why or why not. Now, we're going to talk about the ECE Business Self-Assessment Tool Resource Guide. And really, this is a supplement that we created because we didn't want to give you a tool that helped you assess your business management practices and perhaps encourage you to make improvements in certain areas, whether it's human resources or finances, and then not pin direct you to any particular resources. That would have been disappointing to go through that process and say, okay, now what? And for there to be nothing for you to turn to. So we created the Business of Childcare, a business management resource guide for New Hampshire child care providers. And this provides guidance and resources to support best practices in in business management. It focuses on the categories, subcategories, and scoring criteria within the tool. And basically what that means is we've mapped it to the tool. So the categories that we mentioned of general financial management, iron triangle, human resources, you're going to see those categories presented in the tool in the same order, as well as their subcategories. And we're going to discuss best practices under each of those categories and subcategories, and then we're going to direct you to some resources that would, help you find whether it's a job description template, a cash flow template, or just good information about a particular practice. And so you'll see that in the guide. We want your input on this as well. So if there's something missing, something wrong, you can certainly contact us. Our contact information is on page 4 of the resource guide. This again is also a work in progress. So, again, your input is really valuable to us. I'm going to go talk a little bit about the primary resources that we used to build the guide, basically where we got our information from. We'll start by talking about Ece Shared Resources. Ece Shared Resources is an online platform that was created to provide tools and resources to early learning centers in New Hampshire. It basically can help you save time, save money, and raise the quality of care provided to your children. And it does that by giving you access to standard resources that are available out there, templates and policies that were developed for early learning centers, budget tools, human resources tools. It also gives you access to buying pools so that you can buy under the umbrella of a larger organization and save money. And looks at basically at shared service programs. So it's a money-saving resource for early learning centers and an information resource. It is available through membership in Early Learning New Hampshire or the State Early Learning Alliance. So there is a fee involved. We do direct you to some of the resources on their website. We know that some early learning centers in New Hampshire are members, and so they'll be able to access them. It's our understanding right now that the membership structure for the access to the Ece Shared Resources may be evolving, but you can find out by just going to this website that's up here, ecesharedresources.net, and look at the membership requirements and learn more about the resource. So if you don't have access, some of the resources we pointed to in here may not be accessible to you. However, many of the resources that are available on the Ece Shared Resources website are also available on the First Children's Finance website, out of Minnesota. And their website's right there, www.firstchildrensfinance.org. And this is a wonderful organization that has put a significant amount of information online available free to child care centers in the areas of finance, human resources, governance, marketing. They have a whole collection of tools and information, knowledge resources available. And so we certainly tapped into that when we pointed you to resources in the resource guide. So you can check out that website as well. The New Hampshire Center for Nonprofits is an important organization for nonprofits in the state of New Hampshire. They also have a wonderful website. It's called Nonprofit Next. And they provide resources to nonprofits around governance, finance, fundraising, planning, all the things that are important to nonprofits. And that is membership access as well. Some of you may be members of the New Hampshire Center for Nonprofits and you know about their Nonprofit Next program. If you don't, we encourage you to check it out. Last, we also refer to a few times in this resource guide, this particular book, The Bottom Line for Children's Program. Children's Programs, I should say. What You Need to Know to Manage the Money by Gwen G. Morgan and Bess R. Emanuel. And this is just a really effective guide for helping you understand how to effectively manage your money in an early learning center. It also has great resources. It's got case studies, which are really interesting to read, to help you understand the nuances of managing the money for early learning center. It's got some templates, and it points you to some resources as well for insurance and other things like that. It really has a good section on budgeting and understanding the bottom line, but also trying to figure out break-even analysis. What you need to be doing to understand your break even, how many children you need, and what expenses you need to control in order to sort of make money for your center, for your program. So that's another excellent resource that we encourage you to check out. It's available online. You just need to Google it, and you'll see several different opportunities to purchase it. It's about a $20 plus publication. Okay. We didn't stop there. These are just sort of the primary resources that we use, but there are a lot more resources you'll see throughout the text of the guide. And then we also started a listing of additional resources, which begins on page 17, and that runs for several pages. And it's a listing of websites that you can go to get information on a variety of different subjects, whether it's on nonprofit, governance, it's on finance, it could be on facilities, it could be on lending, it could be on early education, data, statistics, labor stats, lots of different categories, technology. And we says it begins on page 17, and it's several pages of just web resources that you might find useful. So hopefully you'll take the resource guide and you'll spend some time going through it, and you'll find that it's really beneficial to you. So taking the tool. So if you do take the tool, take the time to do it, which we hope you will, expect to spend about an hour. That's what we've been hearing from directors, and we've had quite a few of them take it at this point, and we do ask that question in the evaluation. And I think most folks are spending about an hour. Be thoughtful and truthful. And by that I mean, just really stop to reflect and, question your assumptions. We're basically self-critiquing when we do any kind of self-assessment. And, it's hardest to be honest with yourself, usually. So really step back and ask yourself, is that really what I'm doing? Even if something's written down, we often say, oh, well, it's in my policy, it's written down here. But is that really what you're doing? So just be thoughtful. It's not so much that you're going to lie to yourself. It's just that we do make assumptions, I think, about the practices that we have. We think that we do something necessary when we're not being as consistent as we could be. So take the time to do that. And then one of the things that supports being sort of thoughtful and truthful in this process is seeking impartiality. Ask someone else to do it with you. If you're a director of a nonprofit and you've got a treasurer or another board member who you like working with, see if they'll go through the self-assessment process with you. Perhaps you're a proprietary center, but you've got a friend with a great business mind, or you've got an associate director who you think could be really useful into this process. Don't do it alone. You don't have to. It's not a requirement. And then do it again. The whole point of this process of self-assessment is for you to gain a solid understanding of your business management practices, where you are now, in terms of those practices, where you're strong, what's going really well, and where you may need to make changes or make improvements. Well, you'll want to make an assessment further down the line to see if you've done that. I think self-assessment's a wonderful thing to do on a periodic basis. And you just decide how frequent that needs to be. It could be every year, it could be every other year, it could be, if you feel like you're in a space right now where you need to be reflecting more often, maybe it's twice a year. You'll figure that out, but come back to it. Assess yourself, make a plan of action based on the assessment, and then come back and see how you did. Maybe situations change that will also reflect a change in your score in different areas. So do it again. That's really the bottom line. Think of it as a growth tool that you can come back to. So we're going to pause here for a moment because I'm going to set you up and we're going to go through a practice exercise for the ABC Early Learning Center. Okay, so really that was about setting me up. Since this is a webinar, I won't be setting you up, but we're going to walk through a practice exercise, basically taking the tool for the ABC Early Learning Center, which is a center that I made up. It's a small private early childhood education center providing infant, toddler, and preschool services to 27 children. It's been in business for 7 years. It has a staff of 4, including the director, Sally, who also teaches. Sally recently read a magazine article about the importance of effective business management. And she says to herself, "It's been some time since I thought about my business management practices. The last time might have been when I started the center. So some self-assessment might be due." She remembers receiving a business self-assessment tool designed specifically for child care centers at a workshop a year or 2 ago and hopes she can still find it. Luckily for Sally, she's able to dig it out. So she digs in to the ECE Business Self-Assessment Tool, and she's into the section on human resources, really personnel management, and the first set of criteria she's going to look at are job descriptions. So she starts reflecting on her practices around job descriptions. And Sally's always had job descriptions for every staff position, but realizes she has not looked at them in a while. She digs in and quickly notices that the titles for most of the job descriptions are no longer accurate. She also realizes that the state-required minimum annual in-service professional development hours have changed, and they're not correctly reflected on the job descriptions. And now she's starting to think to herself, "Cheeks, hope my staff members don't think I'm losing it because I'm actually using these job descriptions. She's handing them out to them." So now she needs to give herself a score. So what I think you should do, I'm going to be silent for 60 seconds. I'm going to time myself here and take a moment to read through the staff hiring and orientation criteria in row 1, and you see that right here. And then ask yourself how Sally should rate herself on this row of the staff hiring and orientation table. And to help you out, I'm going to give you this little blue box, which goes through again the criteria, sort of what her current practices are, what she sort of just discovered about her job description practices when she was going through those, considering them in the slide before. So take 60 seconds to do that, and I'll come back to you. All right. Well, where'd you end up? You may have ended up giving Sally a 2. I won't say that others haven't given her a 1. Some have, and some have given her a 3. But really, the thing is, she does have a job description for each teaching and administrative staff. We recognize she hasn't looked at them for a while, so she's not reviewing them annually, which would be under number 4. And they don't reflect the minimum qualifications and education needed to fill the position. She's not looking at them regularly, so she hasn't updated that. So 3 would be a push. But now she knows what she needs to do. She needs to update her job descriptions, and she should set up a process, whether it's a flag in her calendar or whatever it is, so that she reminds herself to look at them more regularly, more frequently. So that's Sally going through the self-assessment tool under staff hiring and orientation. So now we're going to do staff hiring and orientation, and that was on job descriptions. Now we're going to look at orientation. So Sally thinks orienting new employees to the policies of the center is important, and is always reviewing and tweaking her written orientation process to make it engaging and informative. She thinks teachers can learn a lot from each other and ensures there's a staff meeting the first week of new employees' tenure. Sally includes all relevant employment forms in the new employee's first day package. And upon reviewing the self-assessment, Sally realized that she's never asked new employees if the orientation process is helpful. She wants to ensure her teachers understand the center's approach to early childhood education, but she's not really asking them if the orientation is helping them do that. So she thinks they're getting what they need, but now she realizes she's not so sure. So she now needs to rate herself on row 2 of the staff hiring and orientation table, and this is about the orientation process. So again, go ahead and read through row 2. These are the criteria that she's going to be scored on, and think about where you would rate Sally. And here's that blue box that sort of summarizes her current practices. And I'll come back to you in about that minute again. Well, what'd you think? Did you give her a 3? Most people give her a 3. I mean, she's obviously very excited about orienting new employees. It's something that she loves to do. She wants to make sure that they, understand her teaching philosophy, so she engages them pretty quickly with what that is. She is giving them all their paperwork on that first day. So she's written her process down. She makes sure that all employees get the required paperwork. And she ensures that new employees have a chance to interact with staff. So the one thing, though, she's really not doing is that feedback process. She hasn't created an opportunity for constructive feedback from new staff to ensure that the orientation process is meeting its objective. So she probably is reviewing it annually, because she seems to review it frequently, because it's something that she really thinks is important. That wasn't really definitively said, so that's something to think about. But she definitely doesn't have the feedback piece in place, so she would end up with a 3. So her total score for job description, we gave her a 2, and orientation, we gave her a 3, would be 5. And that's the process of going through the self-assessment tool. So there's a handout for the ABC Early Learning Center if you wanted to do more of the workshop practice exercises. That's going to be available on the website with this webinar. You can download the ABC Early Learning Center practice exercises if you want to spend more time with Sally. Feel free to do that. There is a webinar evaluation that's also available. We're not going to be sending that to you via email, but you'll see it on the website with the webinar link, same place where the webinar is, so you can fill that out as well. And you can also complete the ECE Business Self-Assessment Tool, the tool evaluation and pre and post assessment questionnaire. Now that's all available in one package. That's the tool package. You'll see all of those documents. But to make it easier for you to return your results to us, which is what we hope you will do, and I'll talk about that more in a minute, there also is a document called basically the pre and post assessment questionnaire evaluation and summary scoring sheet. It's all in, that may not be the title of it, but that's, you'll see it. It's all in one Word document. And that way you can send your results for the tool, the summary scoring sheet, the evaluation form, and the pre and post assessment questionnaire to us electronically. So you're going to get you'll download the webinar evaluation, hopefully, and send that to us. You'll download the tool so that you can complete it. And you'll also see the resource guide there as well. And then you'll download this Word document that has the assessment questionnaire, the evaluation form, and the summary scoring sheet all in one, so that you can fill that out and send it to us electronically. We would really appreciate it if you shared your results and thoughts with us. We will never share individual scores. These are always consolidated and shared in the aggregate. We do share information with our funders. That helps us to continue to get support for the Business and Child Care Initiative, so we can continue to bring resources like the tool, workshops, and consultant support, technical assistance, and mini grants to early learning centers in the state of New Hampshire. So it's really important that we're able to go back to our funders and say, you know, this is the information that we're collecting, and this is what we're seeing, and this is what the need is. So sharing your results with us is important. So we hope you'll do that. And again, you can do that by emailing either myself or Julie, and we'll make sure that information is up on the screen, and you'll also see it on the website. A few more things before we wrap up. We are in the process right now. This is the Business of Child Care Initiative. We currently have technical assistance available, depending on the stage we are in the Business of Child Care Initiative. This isn't always an available opportunity, but right now it is. And today is April 9th, 10th, 2018. And so that's technical assistance is available. Currently, we do prioritize technical assistance and mini grants. I might as well put that up here as well. Geographically, and that's just to meet the geographic priorities or focus of our funders. So basically, centers that licensed early learning centers or child care centers that are in Manchester, Amherst, Nashua, or the Upper Valley are prioritized when it comes to technical assistance and mini grants. That does not mean that an early learning center, licensed child care center in New Hampshire outside of those areas can't apply. It just means that priority is given to centers in those locations. And again, that's Manchester, Nashua, Amherst, and the Upper Valley. And so basically, technical assistance basically gets you one-on-one support with a consultant. What happens is you will go through the Ece Business Self-Assessment Tool process. You have to do that. You share your results with us. And in that process, you identify areas of your business management practices that you would like to receive one-on-one technical support. And we will help you do that. It could be working one-on-one with a consultant on your budgeting practices, developing a cash flow management tool, trying to understand your per child cost. You might want to make improvements in your personnel practices. You might be looking for board training, planning, long-term or short-term planning around your center. Maybe you'd like to develop an annual work plan, or you'd like to look at the process of strategic planning. Whatever it is, we should be able to dig in with you and provide actual support, meaning we might be able to create that cash flow management tool for you if that's what you want, direct you to appropriate resources, and or basically a combination of both. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to get an outside expertise to come in for free and help you make a leap in your business management practices. This is we do the work, you work with us, but we do the work. It's really just a commitment of your time. Centers that complete the tool and go through the technical assistance process become eligible for mini grants, and these are up to $1,200 or $1,400, depending on location. And again, geographically prioritized for centers licensed childcare centers that are in Manchester, Nashua, Amherst, or the Upper Valley. But keep in mind that those are priority areas. That doesn't mean that a center wouldn't be eligible if it was outside those areas, but we do have to prioritize mini grants for those geographical regions. But mini grants sort of allow you to push technical assistance further. I like the example of someone who decides to get some technical assistance around their collection management practices, maybe elements of the iron triangle, and realizes that automating some of their payment processes would be really helpful in helping them improve collections. And so technical assistance, we'd make sure that they have appropriate policies in place, they have strong practices, that their communications around collections are really strong and effective. And under the mini grant, you might use that to purchase a child care management software, which allows you to automate your billing or to set up automating payments. It could be something like that. So the technical assistance and mini grants can work together to provide a more focused and concentrated or in-depth experience around one particular topic. Or you can do one thing under technical assistance and consider some other practice to support with the mini grant. They're both wonderful opportunities that you can explore once you complete the ECE Business Self-Assessment Tool and share your results. Okay. There we go. Prioritize based on location. Manchester, Nashua, and the Upper Valley region. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to Julie McConnell, again, the Director of Child Care and Community Facilities Lending at the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund. There's her phone number and her email. Or me, I'm Kim Vada of Kim Vada Consulting. There's my email and my phone number. And that's it. Thank you for joining us today on the webinar for the ECE Business Self-Assessment Tool. We hope that you will download the tool, the resource guide, and the Word document that allows you to share your results electronically, and that you will take the tool and go through that process. It's 60 minutes of your time. I think you'll find it very worthwhile. We've heard nothing but positive responses from directors who've sent us the evaluation after they've taken the tool. Not one of them has said it wasn't worth their time doing. So please take the time to do it and share your results with us. We look forward to hearing from you.